I think a good 4 to 6 months is a good time period, but really hit the pause on your social life. Tell everybody, look, I'm doing something serious. You're probably not going to hear from me. I think a lot of people try to get started in something, in learning something like this, and it's multidisciplinary. It's not just coding. Yes, coding has to be really tight. You got to know how to code. You got to know a little bit about time space efficiency, but you really got to know your statistics and statistical programming sort of know-how. And I think that's a really important part of it. But it's not, it's helpful to have somebody mentor you, of course, and that's always going to be ideal if you take a program. I have some definite thoughts on that, but just from the beginning, this is a journey. It's not like 1, 2, or 3 things. There's like 4 or 5 things you got to be kind of like well versed in before you even hit the ground running and decide that you're going to start interviewing. But yeah, I would say 4 to 6 months, and you should expect 30, 40 hours of study to make that work. And I know that's not for everybody, and it's not, definitely you can take a longer road. But look, I used to teach boot camps, and like taking a boot camp in anything, data science, just regular software engineering or what have you, cloud engineering, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. It's like you're doing stuff every day. It's a lot of information to cram into your brain. But here's my kind of take on what is a data scientist, and certainly there's a lot of flexibility in how different companies define that. But basically, you're someone that knows math and stats, computer science, and you have some domain knowledge, meaning you have. And I'd say this is probably easier if you already have a STEM background, like if you have, let's say, a degree in like psychology or biology or computer science or statistics, or there's a lot of different aspects of that, and I think that can be very useful. It's not necessary, it's not required, but I do think that if you're coming at it from an angle of you're starting to put your resume out after you've gained all these skills, and people that make decisions about hiring are going to look at your background. Okay, great. What have you done? You don't really have the discipline in this specific area. It's, I'm not saying you can't find some way to make that work. It means that it's a little bit tougher to get into that game, but it's not impossible. Definitely have some advice. But I think Python or R, I totally recommend Python. I'm super biased. I think Python's a better language to learn for becoming a data scientist today because of the applicability to all of the different, it's a general purpose language. It has such a strong community with data visualization and working with data at scale now than R has. R still, hey, I love R. I think it's a great language. I use it for certain things. But if I want to build something and then put it in production, then Python for me personally is, I think, not only is it easier to learn, I think personally, but I think it's just, it's got way more applications, and it's a little easier to relate to any other C-based languages. And that's totally my opinion, but I'm totally open to other points of view. So yeah, you also need to know your stats pretty well. And I do think taking like a stats course is extremely useful. And then machine learning, of course. But don't feel like, I will tell you, being a data scientist specifically is not all about machine learning. Learning AI is not all about machine learning, okay? Like the journey of a project is like probably 80-90% working with data, and then the fun part, that's kind of like, you still got to know it. And you probably, if you went through a boot camp, you would just think like, oh, it's all about machine learning. It's totally not. Super, super important though. You do need to understand like the fundamentals. Yeah, and working with data, you got to know, yeah, being able to clean data. You got to be a ninja with data. You got to be able to go through it and be like, okay, I've got 5 different sources. I need to be able to munge these things, transform them in different ways, clean it up, make sure that, you understand data types and strong fundamentals with like SQL and those concepts you learn about merging, subqueries, window functions. Those are all part of this sort of idea of working with data at scale. But you gotta be able to talk to people like a human being and not a nerd. Yes, you gotta know, you gotta act and think like a nerd, but you have to be able to communicate to business people on their level and understand domain problems in a way that, you know, you're doing a lot of advocacy and you're doing a lot of communication. You're giving presentations. Like, I mean, for me in my job and my clients, I probably give 2 or 3 presentations a week on various things that I work on. And that's super important to be able to like get information, talk to people, define the hell out of problems, and make sure that you're solving the right problems. And then you're, you know, getting the right stakeholders involved to make decisions about things that you're advocating for. So, I went into Python. We'll skip ahead. Learn stats. Yes. I'll just say a couple of things about learning stats. Other than it's important, the things you do with it is, you know, you're looking to understand how to draw meaningful, conclusions about data, relationships in data, understanding, understanding how to visually inspect things in stats, using stats as sort of your sort of lens and how you're looking at things, what's more likely and what's not, things, you know, known knowns, known unknowns, or, you know, there's a lot of, I would say, there's just a lot of, I think you can never know enough stats. And I fully believe that you can always know more. And I think the basics can come with a basic, you know, 101 class, but I think you know, that's probably good enough to start, but you really want to go beyond that. You want to know combinatorics, probability theory, being able to, you know, solve like convex, non-convex optimization problems. Those, you know, when you cross over more into like calc and linear algebra, those things are, there's definitely a lot to say without getting in the weeds, but that's my opinion. That's my opinion. All right, here's a couple of resources. I will share the slide deck. I think these are excellent places to start. Three Blue, One Brown has the Essence of Linear Algebra series. It is probably one of the best. Not everybody agrees they are not visual, but I totally am. And I think this series on linear algebra is just, it's freaking amazing. It's just so intuitive. It gives you a really good visual. I've consumed a lot of resources and given a lot of recommendations. And for me, from my point of view, this one is the best to start with. Of course, you got to know more than you got to get in the weeds and learn a little bit more hands-on, especially with programming and using linear algebra. But this is a good place to start. I have some book recommendations on my server, and they're in a channel called #bookrecommendations, and I recommend you check that out. And I wrote an article, and I think it's also a good kind of resource about what you don't in boot camps and what I think you should probably treat as a first-class citizen in your learnings. So those are just a couple of basic resources. And that's it. That's what I've got. So I see some questions here. Let's see what we've got here. I will scroll back. All right, Walid, I see you there. I see a question. Can we request data from Tinder? You know, I don't know what the current state of dating app, like data acquisition possibilities are these days, but I can tell you there's a couple of apps for Tinder that are written in Python. There's some things that I know there's something in Python for Tinder itself. It's like it's kind of I think it might be a proxy, may not, but a lot of these things, like I'll tell you, like the best way to get tapped into that data if you want it is use a proxy. Actually, there's a lot of really good ones. I think there's one called Charles. I want to say it's called Charlie or Charles or something like that. I used something like that a lot on my Mac, and Windows, I think they have something similar. But basically, you connect to the proxy from your mobile application, and basically you can replay all of the JSON messages that are sent back and forth, and you can kind of work at it from that angle. And if you wanted to like take the session from that and reuse it in Python script, I won't say do that, but is it possible for educational purposes? Absolutely. So I don't know if that's helpful. Let's see. Let's see. Any more questions? Tinder, yes. Yes, is it possible? Can we get this recorded? I don't believe so.
We have one staff recording it right now, but it was like halfway through.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So I see a message about, being banned from my server. I have a bunch of spam stuff, I should say, to my dose of data server. And by the way, I'm not an expert in running servers. I'm trying to become one, but I set something up that if people don't have an account that's at least 24 hours old, they can't get in. Maybe I should change that. If maybe that's not a good practice, but feel free to reach out. I'm on World of Coding. Just message me directly, and I'm sure I could get you in somehow. I'll have to figure it out. It happens once in a while. So, any thoughts on Chat GPT? Okay. Oh man. Yeah. So this Chat GPT based off GPT-3, the generative pre-trained transformer model created by OpenAI. Cost $4 million to train. It's freaking amazing. I've been very surprised. One of the things I work with is like TensorFlow and Keras, and a lot of other things. And I've been kind of learning React on the side because I'm kind of curious. I'm always wanting to learn something, but the fact that I can go in, like, here's a quick little anecdote. So like I wanted to know, for any React people, it's like one of the things that's always escaped me with React is this thing called use effect. And I was like, what the hell is that exactly? And there's nowhere that I found on the web that's like, what the hell is this? This is what the hell it is. But it doesn't, it's complicated actually. It's like a callback. But I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, can you give me can you give me a use case where this is actually useful? And it gave me not only a one paragraph like explanation, because I asked it to, and I asked, can you give me a code example? And it gave me a code example. I could copy and paste the code example into my code editor, save it, and it worked. I'm like, amazing. I changed the state of one piece of data, and this callback just runs. And I'm like, wow, okay, finally someone explained this to me in a way that I could understand. So that is freaking crazy. And I had so I'm doing a little sound design project with some friends for a cyberpunk game. And I asked it to come up with a premise for like this scene that we're talking about and how we want it to sound. And it gave like, I asked it to create a script and dialogue, but then also shot by shot, like screen